If you grew up in the 1980s, stop scrolling for just a moment. Because what I'm about to say might explain something you've felt for years but never had words for. Why chaos doesn't shake you the way it shakes others. Why silence feels comfortable instead of awkward. And why modern life sometimes feels overwhelming, not because it's hard, but because it's noisy. This isn't nostalgia. This is psychology. And it proves you were built differently. People who grew up in the 1980s developed during a rare moment in human history. A time when childhood still meant freedom, but responsibility was real. A time before constant supervision, before endless screens, before every emotion was managed by an app or a notification. Back then, kids weren't scheduled every hour. They weren't tracked. They weren't entertained on demand. And that environment shaped your brain in ways that simply don't happen anymore. One of the first things the 80s gave you was mental self-reliance. When you said, "I'm bored," no one rushed to fix it. There was no device handed to you. No plan created for you. You were expected to figure it out or accept the consequences. So you learned how to create something from nothing. You read books you didn't fully understand yet. You rode your bike with no destination. You spent entire afternoons doing absolutely nothing, and somehow, that nothing turned into something memorable. Psychology shows that children who grow up with unstructured time develop stronger creativity and problem-solving skills. You weren't waiting for purpose. You were inventing it. That's why, even today, slow moments don't scare you. You don't panic when things go quiet. You know how to exist without constant stimulation. But creativity alone doesn't explain why you stay calm when things fall apart. That calm came from real-world experience. You grew up with risk, real risk. You climbed trees that were too tall. You wiped out on concrete. You learned limits the hard way. And every mistake taught your nervous system something important. Not everything dangerous is deadly. Not every problem is a crisis. Developmental psychology shows that kids who experienced manageable physical risk grow into adults with better emotional regulation and lower baseline anxiety. Your body learned the difference between true danger and discomfort. That's why, when things go wrong, you don't freeze. You don't spiral. You assess the situation, take a breath, and start solving. While others panic, you stabilize. Then there's a trait that feels almost rare now. You learned how to be alone, without feeling lonely. You spent hours listening to music, lying on your bed, staring at the ceiling. You walked places with your thoughts. Silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was familiar. Before constant connectivity, the brain learned how to self-regulate. Studies show people raised before non-stop digital stimulation experience less anxiety when alone with their thoughts. That's why waiting rooms don't stress you. Long drives don't need noise. Quiet moments don't feel empty, they feel grounding. You also developed something modern life quietly destroyed: patience. You waited for photos to be developed. You waited all week for one episode of a show. You memorized phone numbers and hoped someone would answer. Delayed gratification wasn't a concept, it was daily life. Psychologists consistently find that people trained to wait have stronger impulse control, healthier relationships, and greater long-term satisfaction. That's why instant rewards rarely impress you. You understand that the best things take time. But the most powerful trait of all is this. You grew up with earned independence. You left the house without a phone. You navigated neighborhoods using judgment and instinct. You learned who to trust, when to leave, and how to handle situations without backup. Your parents weren't hovering. They weren't your friends. They expected competence, and they trusted you to develop it. Research shows that children given freedom of movement develop stronger internal motivation and decision-making skills. You weren't constantly corrected or rescued. You learned through experience. That's why you don't need constant validation. You trust yourself. You adapt. You move forward. So if you sometimes feel out of place in today's world, remember this. You're not outdated. You're grounded. What looks like emotional distance is stability. What looks like silence is depth. What looks like patience is discipline. You weren't overprotected. You were prepared. For a brief moment in history, childhood created capable adults instead of constant dependence. Kids were both free and accountable, curious and resilient. civilized and a little feral. And you lived through that moment. You didn't just grow up in the 1980s. The 1980s built you. So if this hit something deep, if it felt like someone finally explained why you are the way you are, don't ignore it. Drop a comment and say, 80s kid, still standing. And if you want more psychology-based content that validates who you really are, subscribe now. Because this isn't nostalgia. This is understanding.